Hello and welcome to the Mature Living Podcast. I'm Riley Runnells, editor of Mature Living, and each month we will be interviewing someone in the community who is making a difference or has a unique story to tell. Okay, so I'm here with Tom Cole, the legendary Tom Cole. How are you doing today?
Riley, it's great to be with you. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you, and I think you're more a legend than I am.
Oh, stop. I want to talk a lot because you have done so much in the community and have worn so many different hats.
Yes.
So I want to kind of walk through from start to finish the span of your life. So start me at your childhood. What was it like for little Tom growing up?
I don't want you sleeping on this table, Riley. I had an incredible mom. We had 5 kids. My mom was pre-Title IX. She was a great athlete. She was a great student. She went to the University of Toledo. Her brother was the first great quarterback at the University of Toledo. His name was Lee Pete. He played a little bit with the Lions and the Packers. But my mom was a better athlete. And he would admit it if he were alive. He has admitted it. She was a better athlete than he was. But they just didn't have women's sports at that time, but she was into sports. So she kind of raised the boys to, we all played football, basketball, baseball, every sport. So that was fun, and I enjoyed that. She was a remarkable lady. She worked full time. She raised 5 kids. She was brilliant. She was athletic. She was beautiful. And she did a great job. So our growing up in that phase was terrific. And they started a new school on Airport Highway called St. John's. It was St. John's then, not St. John's Jesuit, which they get mad if you don't say Jesuit on top of it. But we'll tough that out. They just built it. It was 65. I went to St. Pat's in grade school on Heather Downs. It was kind of an oddity, Riley, in that I was in the first class to go through St. Pat's, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then I was in the first class to go through St. John's.
Wow.
So you were always like the top dog. There wasn't, they freshman year they stuff you in a locker, they do whatever stuff to you, But I was always in the top class. It was a great experience. But in 65, I went out to St. John's. It was a brand new school, Airport Highway. There was nothing on Airport Highway. I mean, Riley, there wasn't a stop sign. There wasn't a traffic light. It was farmland, cows, and they plopped the school down, And I remember vividly riding my bike out with another classmate. And from our house, it was a pretty good ride to St. John's in June to see, school starts in August, right? And we go there and we're looking around and there's construction everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to play football. I wanted to play basketball and all those things. We're in the gym. It's a dirt floor. I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here? They're not going to be ready. There's no football field, dirt floor. It was a mess. And I'm thinking, hey, we might have made a mistake here, And suddenly this huge man comes walking up, and he's in a cassock, the old religious cleric cassock, the black cassock, right? He comes up, and he's huge. And he's smoking a big cigar. It wouldn't be workable today, but he's smoking a big cigar, and he comes in and he says, "Hello, gentlemen." We introduced ourselves. He said, "Well, you're the first 2 students to ever enter St. John's High School." And I said, "Well, I didn't say much." My other friend was a little more. He didn't mind saying things, And so he looks at the priest and he goes, "Hey, Father," he goes, "Hey, is this place going to be ready for us or what?" And he took a puff on the cigar, and he put the cigar down, and he had glasses, so he looked over the top of his glasses, and he was towering over us. And he said, "Young man, the question isn't whether St. John's is going to be ready. The question is," and he's right in our face now, the question is, are you going to be ready for St. John's?
Oh, wow.
Man, I got on my bike. I got out of there as fast as I could. I went home and told my mom, I said, "Hey, they're serious out there. This is serious business." Yeah. But when we showed up, they did, they still had construction and things. But we had basketball team, we had football team. It all worked out. Had a great experience at St. John's, fantastic experience, great education, great teachers, great classmates. Couldn't have had a better experience. Yeah. And I was headed to go to Marshall University to play football. And on my way home from Marshall, we stopped to get a hamburger in Delaware, Ohio. I never heard of Delaware, Ohio, but it was a little hamburger place called L&K or something, I believe it was. I think it's changed today. But so I'm sitting there, we're eating a hamburger, and this guy comes up, and I had my St. John's leather jacket on. I'd visited Marshall like 5 times, and I was committed. We're going. I'm going to be. They had a great quarterback, but I was going to be like the backup, and so that was fine, and so forth. And he introduced himself, and he said, "I'm the head coach at Ohio Wesleyan University." I said, "Great, well, that's nice and whatever." And he asked me, "Would I ever consider Ohio Wesleyan?" I said, "Well, I'm going to Marshall." And he says, "Yeah, but would you at least listen?" So he's talking about Ohio Wesleyan, and one thing I wanted to do is play 2 sports in college, football and basketball. But I knew I wasn't good enough to play 2 sports in the MAC. That's pretty tough.
Right.
But I thought maybe it was D2. Ohio Wesleyan was D2. I said, D2, maybe I could, And the more he talked, and they needed a quarterback. Oh, no. And long story short, we changed. And so I ended up going to Ohio Wesleyan. Well, that year, the next year, they had the Marshall plane crash. I knew all those kids because I had stayed with them. So I would have been on the plane.
Right.
And so, it was kind of
eerie.
It was eerie. Yeah, really, because I knew them all and I knew all the coaches, and I definitely would have been on the plane. So if not meeting for that hamburger that night,
that's crazy how one decision can change the course of your life entirely.
You talk about fate,
Right.
why do we stop in that restaurant? Why did he walk in that day, that time? But Wesleyan was great to me, great education, played football and basketball, great friends I met, as you certainly did the same in college. Probably my football friends, a group of them, maybe 10, we've been friends for 50 years. Stayed close and keep track of each other and how the families are doing, and just wonderful, incredible people. From Ohio Wesleyan, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
What did you study while you were there?
Good question. History major, English minor.
Nice.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I at one time thought law school, and then I thought maybe teaching coach, and
right.
I thought for a while I still tried to play football someplace. I did try to play some semi-pro ball. It didn't last. It lasted a little while. I didn't like it. You got $50 a game or whatever.
Right.
It wasn't worth the.
Well, that was before. Back then, before sports were really like monetized and commercialized the way they are now.
100%.
I've talked about that with my dad as well in baseball. How there was a point where he was making less as a major league coach than my mom was making as an anchor in Toledo.
Yeah, well, you talk about 2 talented parents. Your mom is, the queen of TV in Toledo, and your dad was a great baseball man, great player, great manager. I remember when he managed the Mud Hens. I used to watch him out at the Lucas County Recreation Center. So, I think that's how your mom and dad met out there.
They did,
yeah. I used to see your mom out at the games, and
of course.
Yeah. But great, obviously, you have incredible parents. But so I was thinking law school, but then I thought, well, maybe I'll teach and coach. And so I started teaching and coach. I started coaching at St. John's, and then that lasted a year or 2, and I got a job then in the public school system. My first real full-time teaching job was at Waite. I coached football and basketball. It was a great experience, wonderful time. I really enjoyed it. So
you actually got into teaching and coaching before you entered into a journalism space.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So tell me kind of about what those experiences were like for you. Working with young kids and bringing them up, and then also with teaching.
Riles, it's the best. Working with kids, I don't know, you may be too youthful for this, but I just watched it for the 3rd time last night, the whole series, Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
If you want to know what sports is about, if you want to know what football is about, Kyle Chandler, who portrays the coach, is the best portrayal of a high school football coach I've ever seen in my life. Wow. The most accurate. And all the players on the team, I knew all those guys. I had them in different forms. I had a Riggins. I had this. I had that. It's so accurate, but there's nothing better than seeing someone achieve when maybe they come in and they don't think they can do it.
Right.
And you kind of encourage them. You put them in their wheelhouse. You give them opportunities, and suddenly they go from 0 to 180. That I can't explain how gratifying that is to know that in some small way you've been a part of their success. I had a youngster at St. John's. He played on the freshman team, quarterback. He wasn't an athletically gifted guy, but he was a great kid. Just a great solid rock kid. And he quarterbacked the freshman team, and they had lost every game. That never happens at St. John's. So he got vilified. When the team loses, the quarterback is the
scapegoat for sure.
I experienced that my whole life. When you win, you get more credit than you deserve. When you lose, you get all the
more hate than you deserve.
A lot of hate. So anyways, he had been vilified, and I was the varsity quarterback coach and wide receiver coach and offensive coordinator and called the plays. But I also wanted to coach the JVs because that's where you can develop people. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
Not many people go to the JV game, so the kids aren't under the microscope.
For sure.
And you can work with them, So, they kept telling me, this kid can't play quarterback. Get him out of there. He's never going to play on our team. Why waste the spot, And I said, no, wait a minute. There's something here. And you work with him, and there were some things that he could do. You found out what he could do, and he was a hard worker. The long and short of it is we won the JV championship with him.
Wow.
Then he moves up to the varsity, and the same guy's coach said the same thing. He's not a quarterback. He's not an athlete. He can't play. Yeah, he had a nice JV season, but that's it. Came up to the varsity and got us to the Shoe Bowl championship game. Wow. So as a kid who was at zero,
right,
and who, and I'm not saying that about myself, but just you put him in the right position, gave him some confidence. When you get confidence, there can't people out there. They're going to tell you what you can't do. Yeah. They're so easy to tell you what but if somebody tells you what you can do and encourages you and you start doing it, the sky's the limit. Those are the kind of things in coaching.
And that's, to me, I've always looked at it as you can't have one without the other.
Right.
I mean, you can't be a great player without somebody behind you as a coach uplifting
100%.
you. And then you can't be a great coach without awesome players who are ready and willing to learn.
Riles, it is a combination of the two.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And if you look at any great coach, I will bet you that they have a great partner. And it could be a woman with a man partner, but mostly in football, it's guys with their wife.
Yeah.
And the wife is the most important part of the equation because you're not home for dinner. You're not home to take care of the kids. You're constantly gone. You're working with everybody else's kids, and they pick up all the slack and do it all. And if they didn't do that, you'd be a crummy coach. You couldn't do it,
Absolutely.
So it is a combination. You must have all of those things, no question.
I appreciate about you that you always are quick to give credit to everybody involved in the equation rather than just keeping it either for yourself or for specific people.
Well, who's successful? I hate's the wrong word, Rouse. I dislike when people say, I did it myself. I picked myself up off the ground by my own bootstraps. No one helped me. I did it all. I said, well, that's wonderful. You are a great person. But then you find their story later. They had all kinds of help.
Of course.
Everybody needs help at some time. And I think that's what we're here to do without being corny. When you can help somebody, help them.
Absolutely.
If you can lift them, do it. It doesn't cost anything,
And so outside of coaching, you also taught too.
Yep.
So I know about your broadcast classes, but did you teach any other subjects too?
History and English.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I love history. I think studying history, there's a theory in history that it's a circle and that the same kinds of things keep happening again and again. Yeah. The names change and the places change, but the events are similar.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. Studying history is interesting. I loved history. And then the English side of it, I always enjoyed writing. I was always writing, even though...
What, you enjoying writing?
Yeah. Well, that's been your career. That's what you're a great writer, and isn't it satisfying to write something when somebody comes up to you, and I know you've had this experience many, many times. Somebody comes up and said, Riles, that article that you wrote? You're kind of waiting to say, oh, okay.
Oh, is there a correction? Yeah.
Did I spell dog wrong or something? And they say, my gosh, that meant a lot to me. That was a great article. I really appreciated it. What does that mean to you? That's like a huge...
It's a huge compliment,
for
sure.
Yeah, that you impacted somebody with your writing,
Definitely.
and you're a great writer. I've read your things, so.
Thank you. And so where did you teach?
I taught at St. John's. Mm-hmm. I taught at Waite, DeVilbiss, Fremont St. Joe, but St. John's predominantly. I did 22 years at St. John's. Yeah. The others were lesser time periods.
Gotcha.
And I teach at Adrian. I taught at Adrian College broadcasting for maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, you've been all over. You've had the chance to impact so many students, which is so incredible.
They didn't throw fruit at me. That's when you know you're doing a good job.
Right.
They didn't hit me with a tomato.
Did you have a preference of a class that you taught?
That's a great question, too. I always liked history.
Mm-hmm. It seems you're most passionate about history.
Yeah, I really like history. I did teach a college class on media. It wasn't broadcasting, it was media in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that because I think so many young folks today gear into one example of media. Maybe they like MSNBC, or maybe they like Fox, or maybe they like, so they just watch that one outlet.
Right.
Well, what they don't understand about cable news, which is great, but these people are paid to give a particular slant on the news to the owners of the cable company.
Right.
So if you work for Fox, you're going to do the hard right thing, or ONA, you're going to do the hard right thing. If you're MSNBC, you're going to do the more left thing. You know, so you're only getting one view, and it was important to teach the youngsters that hey, get multiple views, look at multiple media sets, read papers. Read books, expand your horizon.
We definitely talk about that a lot within journalism, is media literacy and making sure that people know how to consume news, how to spot fake news, how to
100%.
All of that, and especially with the rise of AI. Yeah, it's become increasingly difficult, but still, it's definitely an important topic to teach.
It's very important, and it gets so narrow for some people that they only watch this one thing, and they're getting just this one view,
right? And
it's never just one view,
right?
It's never just this or just that. It's usually something in the middle,
for sure.
If you can get in the middle, not hard right, not hard left, if you can get somewhere in the middle, that's usually pretty good policy,
right? And finding fair and unbiased reporting is so key.
1,000%.
So on that, tell me about how you then transitioned into your journalism career.
Yeah, I just that's an interesting thing. I had people asking me to write, like for the Perrysburg Messenger Journal.
Mm-hmm.
I do sports columns for them. I've done a lot of them through the years.
Yeah.
And I have a great relationship with them. They've been so, Chet Welch, been so kind to me. When I find something that I'm interested in, I just write the article, send it off to them, and they're kind. They put it in. I just...
Did you start with writing?
Yes. Yeah. I love the writing, and I just did an article on Caitlin Clark, the Clark effect, and
nice.
What she's meant to the women's game of basketball.
For sure. So obviously you're passionate about sports,
yes.
and you write a lot about sports for the Messenger Journal. I know you've written for the Sylvania Advantage as well. Give me kind of the timeline. So did you enter into this writing space while you were still teaching? Yeah.
What I did, Riley, is I wrote for my own personal enjoyment, and I'll bet you have done this because you're such a great writer. I like writing songs too, so I wrote songs. I had a couple published, actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that anyway.
Anyways, I wrote stories kind of for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Started out, I think this would be a good story. I wrote a couple of screenplays that I thought would be, I did a little bit of that. And I enjoyed it so much, then I started saying, well, let's try and do something with these. So I wrote 3 sports books that were published, and I've got a 4th that's going to come out in about 2 weeks on Amazon.
Yeah, so talk about those, because, talk about why you wrote those, what inspired you, what they're all about.
Okay. The first one was a children's baseball story.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Benny and Babe. And I got the idea. It was a fun story. It just, you're a great writer. The stuff just comes to you, right?
Yeah.
It just... I want to say it's almost kind of like by osmosis in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like an idea will just come in there. I remember I was at a quarry with my wife in Salisbury Quarry before it got changed many, many years ago to just condos. But I said, I'm going to write a kid's baseball story, fun. So I came up with the idea that Benny was this struggling young baseball player, right? And he was a pitcher. And he was terrible. And his team was terrible. And every time he pitches, he gets shelled. I mean, they just...
Oh, no.
He gets hit, like, everywhere, So what happens is I have to go back. It's a while since I've reread this, but I think I had his coach's name as Coach Thumbreaker, I think was his last name. He was kind of a gruff, big man, you know. And he finally told Benny. He said, "Listen, Benny, either you start pitching better, or it's the bench for you. You're done." And so Benny was depressed. He went back out to the mound, and he got this baseball. And while he was holding the baseball, it's kind of a Mark Fidrich thing about talking to the baseball. The baseball said to Benny, he said, "Hey, kid, don't worry, I got this. Just throw me up there." It was a talking baseball. Nobody else could hear that it was talking, but Benny could. So Benny was a little shocked, but he threw the ball up, and Babe, his name was Babe, and Babe did all the turns and dips, and
cool.
Benny's striking everybody out, everybody, and suddenly he's becoming a great pitcher. He'd take Babe home with him at night, and he'd be on his desk while he's doing his homework, and he'd put the baseball game on TV so Babe could watch the baseball game. Babe used to be in the big leagues, and somehow he got down to this lower kid league stuff. And finally, Benny's just pitching so well, it's unbelievable. And one day, Babe said, "I'm gonna let him do it on his own." So he kind of rolled away, and they put another ball in there. Benny didn't know it. And he was doing great because he had the confidence. He felt good about himself. So he could do it, So then Benny said, "You did that for me. I'm going to do something for you." And he asked his dad to take him to a San Diego Padres baseball game. So they went to the game, and Benny catches a fly ball in the outfield, but he brought Babe with him in his pocket. And the thing is, when the opposite team hits a home run, you throw the ball back if it's not going. So Benny switches the baseballs, and he throws Babe back out in the field.
Oh, cute.
And it ends with Babe getting into the majors now. He's back in the majors.
Oh, I love that.
So Benny got what he wanted, the confidence and the respect of his teammates, and Babe got back to the major league. So
that's so sweet.
It's called Benny and Babe. But, yeah, it was fun. We had fun with it. So.
Yeah. And talk about, so you wrote that book. You've also written several others.
Yeah.
So you can talk about those too.
Yeah. Let's see. The one I really like, there's a couple of them. The Class of 73. But I'll do the One Last Fall was the one before that. One Last Fall was all true experiences in a way. I mean, experiences I had playing quarterback and through high school, college, people I'd known, kind of like my Friday Night Lights. I changed the names, but they were similar things. It was an aging quarterback on a pro team who's trying to hang on for one more season, hence the name One Last Fall. And he's a good guy. I mean, he's a good guy, but he can't really do it anymore, but he's hanging on. The quarterback of this pro team is a young guy, and he's a jerk. It's all about him. He's a me guy. Doesn't care about the team. It's just the money, the flash, the cars, and it's all him. So this guy, his last name was Tomorrow. He was the glue that held the team together, even though it was behind the scenes. How many times on a job is there a behind-the-scenes person that really is the glue that holds the organization together, but they don't get the credit because he cared about all the teammates. He did all the right things, and he tried to help the young quarterback, but there was no helping this guy. But yeah, that was the story, and he hung on for one more year, and he did come in the games at the end and help the team win, and it was a cool story called One Last Fall.
I love that.
And but the behind the scenes, or the person that's we're not always going to be the stars, right? So if you're not the star, what do? You put your head down and pout? Do you say, okay, I'm not the go-to person here, but I can be a part of something. I can make this better. I can,
exactly.
People get hung up. They're not the star. It's like, well, you're not going to be the star all the time.
Right.
So that's what One Last Fall was all about. The next one was the Class of 73. Which was my senior year in college. And I did, and took it off of a lot of real experiences. And that class, we went through the moon landing, Vietnam, Woodstock, Watergate, all of those things, campus unrest. We went home for a week or two because they had burned down some buildings on our campus. We went through all of that, and kind of talking about how it changed you and what you learned from it. And again, I've been friends with 50 years with that group of people that I went to school with. So it was called the Class of '73.
And what a cool way for you to combine your love of history and
Right.
documenting what you saw in real time.
Right. It was real
with
stuff.
Your love for writing.
Yeah,
That's really
it
cool.
was the real stuff. I don't know if you think this way, but it's easier for me to write things that I've somewhat experienced or somewhat know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can change the names and the locations,
For
but
sure.
you know, but if I feel more real about it. You know, that's how it kind of worked for me.
Absolutely.
And the last one, I'm going to be out in a couple of weeks on Amazon. It's called Black in the Pocket. Mm-hmm. And it's a story of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s, where the African-American quarterback, pro quarterback, and in college, did not get their opportunities. They, the leagues were run by old white guys.
Right.
I mean, that's just the reality.
Yeah.
And they didn't think that an African-American quarterback could lead a professional team.
Right.
So what they did is they switched them to wide receiver, running back, defensive back. They were denied these opportunities. And and so I talk about all those guys that, the Patrick Mahomes today, all these guys back in the day that went through the horrible struggles that they had.
Yeah.
Because today it's different.
For sure.
Mahomes is Mahomes.
Praised, yeah.
He's the best, but it wasn't like that until Doug Williams won the Super Bowl in '88.
Yeah.
No African-American quarterback had ever quarterbacked a Super Bowl team. Last year, 2 years ago, we had two quarterbacking in the game. So that's the changes in the progress. But the book's about their struggles. It's a good story because it's ended up good, but it talks about their struggles and how much they did persevere and hang in there. And I don't know if you know Chuck Ely's story at all. Chuck played quarterback for the University of Toledo. They won 35 games in a row. It's the most in the history of college football. Chuck, in grade school, he played quarterback, Portsmouth, Ohio, never lost a game. Mm-hmm. High school, in Notre Dame High School in Portsmouth, Ohio, 4 years, never lost a game. So grade school, high school, right? Mm-hmm. So he comes to the University of Toledo sent somebody to scout him, but they missed his football season. So the scout came down and watched him play basketball. They saw him score 30 points and made the last shot with 5 seconds to go. The scout came back and said, "Hey, I don't know if he can play football, but he's a great athlete." So the head coach at UT said, "Let's offer him a scholarship." Frank Lauterbur. They offer him a scholarship. He comes down and talks to the coach and said, "We're going to offer you a scholarship, but we're going to have to change you to wide receiver, defensive back, running back. You're not going to play quarterback." And Chuck looked at him and said, "Coach, I appreciate the scholarship. I'm a quarterback. And if you give me an opportunity to compete, I will win the job." And the coach was so impressed with his strong stance on it. He said, "You know what? I'm going to give you a chance." He gave him a chance. He won the job. And he won 35 straight games in a row for the University of Toledo, won 3 Tangerine Bowls. And then never lost a game. Mm-hmm. No one in the NFL drafted him because they wanted him to change positions, be a running back, defensive back, wide receiver.
That's a fascinating topic.
I'm a quarterback, he said. So he goes to Canada, plays Canadian football his first year, and Riles, you can guess what he did his first year. He won the Grey Cup, which is their Super Bowl. So he never got his chance. Now today, if he would have come out and done that with all the changes in football, he'd be a superstar in the NFL.
Right, absolutely. And I think again, it's so clear that you find ways to combine your talents with your love of history, your love of writing, putting those together. I think that's and the love of sports.
Yes.
I mean, it's all coming together, which is really awesome.
Thank you, Ross.
So I want to talk about your songs too.
Okay.
Because I saw that you have a couple songs published.
Yes.
So tell me about those.
There was a movie they were going to make in which they should have made in Toledo. It was about the Toledo Troopers. It was the women's professional team here in town.
Yeah.
They were great.
So great. And
their running back, Linda Jefferson, may be one of the best athletes to ever come out of Toledo. I saw her play on film, and I want to tell you what, she could have played in the guys' game. I mean, that's how good she was. But they didn't get their opportunities, and I actually taught a young man at St. John's. His name is Steve Guinan. He wrote a screenplay for it, and for the troopers, the story. It's a great story, and they got a film producer, a Hollywood film producer,
And I think they were looking at like Matt Damon or somebody to play the coach.
Yeah,
they
they
big
did,
actors
and they got a big time Hollywood producer to sign on.
Yeah.
They raised money.
Mm-hmm.
It was all going to happen, and my partner in songwriting, Jamie Mills, who's a great artist, we wrote a title song for the movie called Hard Heart, and bottom line is it takes a hard heart to be able to accomplish. You got to be tough.
Right.
Yeah, that was the concept, Hard Heart, and so we wrote the song. It was going to be the title thing in the movie, and then the movie fell apart for a myriad of reasons. Mm-hmm. So he went on and published the song, and so we did that one.
Did you sing too?
No, I've had others that I have sung on, but not on that one. Yeah. But so I've done a couple of songs and working on a couple more, but that's more of a fun thing. Yeah. I enjoy coming up with a hook. If you come up with a hook, I think the hook is the thing, and then you build the song from there.
For sure. I love that. And so talk to me now about your transition then into television and radio.
Okay.
So obviously there's a lot of overlap among the many hats that you wear, but walk me through when you first entered into the radio and television space.
Okay. I think when it was one of my last years of coaching and teaching at St. John's, I had this head coach, he's a great guy, his name's Fred Beyer. They're naming the field after him at St. John's this August, as a matter of fact. Good guy. Buckeye came to him and said, we're doing this is pre-BCSN. They came to him and said, we would like you to do color on one of our games once a week. It was just once a week. And Fred didn't like media. He wasn't a fan of media at all. He didn't like doing interviews. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to coach and be left alone.
Makes sense.
So he said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, I've got a guy, he might not be terrible. And so I was the maybe not terrible guy. So Buckeye asked me, do you want to do one game a week and do color on it? And my mom always said, says something I always remembered. Say yes. You get an opportunity. You don't know if you're going to be good at it or not, and maybe you're not, but you'll learn something, and just say yes. It's an experience.
Right.
So I said yes, and I did 5 years, the one game a week on Buckeye and football. Mm-hmm. So then Alan Block got the incredible idea to do BCSN, and they came to me and they said, "Well, you're here, you're not terrible. Do you want to do BCSN?" And I had no idea.
Very flattering.
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, the bar wasn't set too high, Riles, And so I said, yes. I don't know what it is or what it could be or what you want me to do.
Yeah.
But I said yes, and that turned into a 20-year job with so many opportunities that I probably didn't even deserve. I've done 10,000 interviews on BCSN, and I've interviewed people that you'd be surprised at the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Gloria Steinem, Lou Holtz, Urban Meyer, Jim Harbaugh. I mean, you name it. I mean, I've had people I had no business interviewing, but it was great fun. And my next book is going to be called 10,000 Interviews, where I talk about the funny ones and all that. So I did that, for 20 years, and then radio just came with it. It was kind of a combined thing. Radio's different, Radio's, I think it's harder to be good on radio than it is to try to be good on TV.
Yeah.
Because if you smile on TV and you're relatively friendly, I think you can get by.
You have multiple ways to engage people on television, whereas
radio, and you have to invent so many things. And what they call it, the theater of the mind. You have to come up with things, and it's a lot harder medium, I think. But so that was my TV, radio, 25 years, and when I left BCSN, I told you in the beginning when we were chatting, this brought in a guy that I didn't like, and I'd been there a long time, so I just said, I've had enough. Yeah. And he left, and then they asked me to come back. So I do some part-time interviews for them, and I'll maybe do a few games here and there. So because I didn't want to do, when you're doing that full-time, I'm full-time with Taylor anyways. You're coming home at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, just what your mom did. You're gone late hours and you come home late, and I kind of didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't mind once in a while, but
Of course. And I want to talk about your transition from BCSN to your current job.
okay.
But first, I want to ask you if you found that there were any key differences between all the different mediums that you've worked on. I mean, you've written songs for fun, you've written books, you've written articles for papers, but you've also done television and radio. I mean, walk me through for you the differences that you found and if you have a preference of a medium.
Gosh, these are great questions, Riles. They're all different talents in a way, and I think you have to recognize that. I think I've just always been a person that likes to do a lot of different things. I didn't want to just be channeled into one thing.
Right.
I enjoy music. I enjoy writing. I enjoy TV. I enjoy radio. So that was always something that I had in me. I just didn't want to just do one thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of be like a utility ball player. Maybe I'm not great, but I could play decent at third or decent at second or maybe decent at first. So I see myself as a utility media guy. Not great, but could do okay.
That's not true. You are great.
Can do okay. That's something that I always wanted to be able to say that, okay, I can write decently. I broadcast decently. That was important to me to be able to try to do all those things. And some people will tell you, well, you should just concentrate on one thing and be as good as you can be. And I get that, but it wasn't for me. I enjoy doing different things.
Well, and you are great at different things. I mean, you're a 2-time Hall of Famer. You're the MVP award winner at BCSN, and you have 8 sports journalism awards. Is that right? Well, I mean, first of all, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that summing it all up? Second of all, do you have a trophy room?
That's funny. I think there were 7 Ohio Buckeye Cable's sports awards for broadcasting. But yeah, I mean, I've just been, Riles, I say it so often. For me, it is dumb luck. I have been in the right place. How much of life is being in the right place at the right time?
Yeah.
I know so many talented people, far more talented than myself, that didn't get the opportunities, not because they didn't have the talent, but it wasn't the right place and the right time. My whole life, I keep saying dumb luck. I've just lucked into these things.
Fate is definitely on your side.
Riles, it is. I think that, I think my mom's been up there helping me for my whole life because I really have just been in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And here's this opening. Okay, you're not terrible. Do you want to do it? I mean, that's how my job interviews go. You're not horrible. You want to do it? And I say yes, and and there we go. It's
what does it mean to you to get this recognition? I mean, obviously it's not, you don't do it for the accolades, but I mean, getting your flowers is always lovely. So what does it mean to you to be recognized for your work?
Riley, that is so nice, and it's so kind, and you kind of feel like you don't deserve it because more talented people, right? But I have to be truthful. It feels good because you put in, just like you work hard, right? And when you get recognized for things that you do, it feels good,
right?
That's why I think we're probably the same type personality. We like to recognize people and tell them that they're doing a good job, because we know what that means to have somebody recognize your work.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not bragging. It's, gosh, thanks. It means so much. And I think it spurs people on to do more, but it has been great. I mean, I know I've gotten more accolades and more recognition than I deserve. And I know that, and I know it, but on the other hand, I can't lie. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
Of course. And so now let's move on to your current work.
Yep.
So you left BCSN and now you're working full-time as the community outreach coordinator at Taylor Automotive.
Yes.
So tell me about how you got into that position and what you do on a day-to-day.
Okay. Steve knew I was leaving BCSN. And I think originally the way it went is, I think when I was leaving, make sure I have this right. I think when I was leaving, I reached out to Steve And basically, I was trying to think of what I could do that would transition from all my other jobs to something in the automotive industry. And I didn't know what that would be, but I thought, gosh, I don't know, maybe I could sell cars. And that was my initial premise. Steve got back to me right away and said, come on in. And so I was surprised he got back so quickly.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, yeah, we're going to do something. And I said, okay. And he said, you're not selling cars.
No.
And I said, okay. I mean, I have nothing against him. My dad did it for a while, and he worked at Jeep for 25 years. And so we had an automotive history in our family.
Yeah.
A couple of my brothers worked at Jeep, and my sister worked at Jeep. So automotive was in our family. But he said, you're going to do community. You're going to be the community outreach coordinator for all the Taylor Automotive dealerships. I said, boss, that sounds good. I don't know really what that is,
Right.
but I'm in. Whatever,
Right.
Saying yes again, right?
Yeah.
And Steve said, here's what we're going to do. Steve, we talked off air on this, but Steve he's a genius guy. I mean, he has an ability to see things that other people don't see.
Yeah.
He thought there's a need in this community. Let's do personal touch things to help lift people in the community. Let's do it every day.
For sure.
And it had nothing to do with selling cars. Steve doesn't do anything in the community to sell a car. It's not like, if we get we do more, we'll sell more cars. He does it for one purpose, and that is to lift the community in any way that he can. He wants to share his great success with other businesses, with other organizations, and it's real.
Well, and he's a born and raised Toledoan too,
Yes.
So having that family tie here
Yes.
as well definitely helps in wanting to uplift that community.
Yes, and I should also credit his father, Mr. Taylor Sr. He endorses this 1,000%, and he's got the same heart that Steve does.
Yeah.
They want to make a difference, and it has nothing to do with selling cars. Steve believes that if you touch somebody personally, they will like you forever. I mean, you do something for them. I'll give you an example. This is how it works. Have you heard of the organization Unruly Arts?
Yes.
Okay. It's an incredible organization.
Absolutely.
I know the young lady who runs it. And so I said, why don't we do something for you? Let's have an art night for you at Taylor and Perrysburg, right? We'll take all the cars out of our dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have your artists with special needs. They create the art, they paint, they draw, they do all the, they're incredible.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bring their work in, we'll set it up on easels, and we'll have music, we'll get music, we'll have food, everything, music and food's free, drinks free, and then people can roam around, look at the art, and if they like something, they'll buy it. Everything was affordably priced, like $200, $150, And so we did it. And the first night, or the first time we did it for them, I think they made $12,000 by the time everything was netted out.
Wow.
$12,000 to their organization was huge. The artists get to keep half,
Mm-hmm.
and the other half goes back to Unruly so they can buy paints and canvas and that. But during the night, a woman came up to me I had never seen before in my life, and she said, I want to tell you something. I thought, oh boy, okay. I started to say, we can fix whatever's wrong, whatever you need.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, whatever you need, we can do, right? She goes, I want to tell you something. I said, okay, ma'am, yes. She said, her daughter was one of the artists, and she had sold a big painting she had done. It was $300. She said, I will never, no one in my family will never, anybody I know will never buy another car from anyone the rest of our lives other than the Taylor Automotive family. It meant that much to her daughter. She started crying. It was so impactful.
Yeah.
Now, Steve didn't do it to sell cars. It had nothing to do with selling cars. But those are the kind of personal touches that Steve has us making every day in the community.
Absolutely. And it's so important, I think, to connect with the community, especially if you are, if you want to have a great business, you have to back it up with uplifting the community.
1,000%.
Sure.
And you're putting your, what is it? Your money where your mouth is, or your mouth where your money is, or whichever way that goes, Riles. You'll have to fix that for me, Riles. But Steve, has made a great living in this community, as has his father. But they want to give back. They genuinely want to give back.
Well, and that's the same with you. You are somebody who's always worked to give back to the community. And so
Thank
I'm
you.
curious from this new position for you, what you hope to accomplish.
Riles, I have been so fortunate to be in this job. Here's my job every day, really 7 days a week. I get to, first of all, now people are calling us. When we first started, people didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
This is going into my 7th year doing this job. They're calling every day. I mean, there's a need every day. There's a tough story. Somebody needs a car that's broken down that they can't get. I mean, the stories are just, and they're all legit. And so I inundated with calls constantly. So we try to help as many as we can. But that's what I do all day long.
Yeah.
We get funds to help people that need help, organizations that need help, people that have legitimate needs, that aren't being fulfilled in this community.
Absolutely.
We had a young boy who, and it's not just me, Steve, at all. I mean, I brought in Terry Crosby, who's remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what Terry's done in our community is absolutely unbelievable. He's a super talent, and he's been great. And then we brought in Joan Brown, who runs Unruly. Mm-hmm. She's an ambassador with us. Mary Helen Dara, who's the Queen of Sylvania.
The Queen of Sylvania.
We brought her in. She is an ambassador for us. We also have others that are out of town. Melinda works in the Hispanic community in our town. Melinda Sanchez, and Vicky Kimmel is out of town in Lima, and she works in Lima. So it has worked so well that Steve has expanded it to all these ambassadors,
right?
And it keeps growing. These people are incredible. But as I tell you, this a young boy, I got a call about a young kid, high school age, 17, no dad. Mom left him and went to Florida, so he's on his own. Teacher from Penta County had called me. I think it was Penta. It was a trade school. And so he's on his own. He did nothing. He was working, going to Penta, finishing up, trying to just so he can survive, working at a Subway shop. I forget the name of it. It wasn't Subway, but it was a sandwich shop. He's working 40 hours a week, but he has no transportation. So he had to take Ubers to the job and Ubers back. So the Ubers was eating up
so much of
his money. Yeah. So the gentleman asked, "Is there something we can do for him?" So I talked to Steve, and anytime Steve hears a great story, he said, "Bring him in. We're gonna help this young man." So Steve hears his story. We're in the room together. The kid's a hardworking kid. No parents helping him. No family helping him. Mm-hmm. Literally on his own at that young age. And Steve said, "Well, here, take a look at these cars. See what you like." And so the kid is going through the cars, and he got real quiet. And Steve said, "Well, what's wrong? Don't you like any of them?" And he said, "Well, Mr. Taylor," because he could see the price of the cars.
Yeah.
He said, "I've only saved up like $4,000 or whatever he had. It was a smaller amount for $3,000 or whatever it was. It's all I have." And he said, "I can't afford any of these cars, And Steve said, "Just pick out what you want. We got the rest taken care of."
Wow.
So we got the youngster the car, and then he was able to finish his schooling, go to work.
That's incredible.
That's what the Taylors are all about. And the other ambassadors. The ambassadors I named, they do a better job than I do. Literally, they're more talented. They do more lifts in the community. They're an amazing group, and an amazing group of ambassadors.
For sure. That's so wonderful. And I think the way that you are also bringing in your personal community touch and the presence that you've built for yourself in the community too has got to help when it comes to doing the outreach shows and all those things.
Yeah.
So I love that you're able to be in this job that you love. That's awesome.
Thanks, Runnells. I appreciate that.
So I want to know about outside of work. So tell me about, your family, other pursuits in the community, etc.
Yeah. Have a great family. My wife and I have been married. We'll be. I should know this, Riles. This
Time
year,
flies when you're having fun.
This year, Riles, I think we've been married 49 years.
Wow.
Next July 26th. Next July is the big one. That's 50. Mm-hmm. 50 years. So
that's awesome.
I mean, she's She's gorgeous.
You must have been young when you got married because
we were like 23.
Yeah.
I would think I was 23. She was 21, I think. Yeah. I think you got married young back then.
Yeah, for sure.
My daughter didn't get married, until she was like 30, 32 maybe or something.
That was the same with my mom too.
Yeah, she waited, we were young and dumb. We didn't know anything. We just did what people thought you should do.
Hey, but clearly it worked out. So that's great.
I get told every day that I outkick my coverage. Trust me. Karen is smarter than I am. She's gorgeous. She's an incredible mom. She's an incredible grandmother. Oh my God, she's the best grandmother in the world. I mean, I think I'm a better grandfather than I was father. It's something about a grandfather is easier or something. I don't know. But yeah, great family. Karen's great. Great grandkids. My daughter's a judge.
In the area?
Yeah, Sylvania.
I love it.
Yeah. Our son passed away last year, and that was
sorry.
Oh, thanks, Riles. But it's an interesting when you deal with something that's it's hard to even explain to anybody.
Yeah.
But you get to a point. It'll be a year in July 13th, but you get to where you can remember the good things and let go of everything else.
Yeah.
And I think you don't forget about them, and you miss them. My first book, if you look at it, he did all the artwork on the first book.
The Benny and Babe book?
Yeah.
Oh,
our son,
that's beautiful.
Clayton. Our daughter's name is Christy. She's the judge, and she does an incredible job. And Clayton did the artwork, and he actually did a lot of artwork on the new book too. So
cool.
Yeah. So, but I've got a great family.
Yeah.
The grandkids. I should know this too. Josie is a freshman at Ottawa Hills.
Okay.
She plays all sports. Cole is 8th grade at Ottawa Hills. He plays all sports. And Cooper, 6th grade at Ottawa Hills, and he plays all sports. So, and my daughter married a great guy. He was a football player at Bowling Green, Sam Hemke.
I was going to say, sports just run in the family, let me tell you.
They do. Well, it was kind of funny when my daughter got married to Sam, who's an incredible guy. My daughter's incredible. I mean, geez, oh man, she's so gifted.
Yeah.
Law degree. She's been a prosecutor, a defender. Now she's a judge. But when they got married, you know how you do the toast and you give advice and I told Sam, he played tackle at Bowling Green. Left side tackle is you protect the blind side of the quarterback. If you're a right-handed quarterback, your blind side is this side, right? So that left tackle needs to be good because you can't see what's coming from that side, right? So I told the toast, I said, Sam, your job and your number one job is to protect your quarterback, So,
oh, I love that. That's so sweet.
Yeah, so they do great. I've got a great family.
And it's nice that they're in the area for you to spend time with them, for sure.
The grandkids are. I think it's easier being a grandparent. I don't know. It's just
because you have all the fun of having a little baby without all the responsibility.
You don't have to lecture anybody.
Right.
I got to the point, I think, because I taught so much. Coach, you get tired of lecturing sometimes.
Yeah.
Why you shouldn't do this.
Now you just get to spoil them rotten.
You get to do, and then they go home and
right. And so I want to talk to you too, finally, for our last serious question before we get to our fun little sidebar.
All right.
Tell me, you've done so many things in the community. You have lived such a fulfilling and wonderful life. Tell me what legacy you hope to leave behind.
Gosh, Riles, Steve said you are a tremendous interview, and you are. It's a great question.
Thank you.
That's another great question. I think the legacy would be, did you help anybody?
Yeah.
Did you try to do good things? Did you try to lift people around you? Did you try to make the things you were involved in a little bit better?
Right.
I think that would be, if there's any legacy, I would like it to be that, that it would say, he did okay. He tried to tried to help us a little bit. He wasn't horrible.
He's not a terrible guy.
Yeah, he's not terrible. He tried to help us a little bit.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so we like to do this fun little segment at the end of the show.
Gotcha.
Where we ask some rapid-fire little sidebar questions.
Okay.
So first, what is the last book that you read or one that you're reading right now?
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's somebody I was going to talk to you about. It's called Good Friday. And it's a gentleman that you should get to know. Mm-hmm. His name is Jim Reitnauer. He's in our community. He's just written the book. It's available on Amazon and any place that you get books. His story, Riles, is unbelievable. He went through a cancer ordeal that I can't even explain to you how difficult it was. And then he's written a book about, he survived. He had an 8% chance of surviving.
Wow.
And he survived. And the book is about survival and trying to be positive and get through the cancer. And I can't even tell. I mean, you'd have to see the index of things that he went through. You wouldn't even believe it.
It's my favorite question to ask people because I'm an avid reader, so I love to add stuff to the list.
I love reading. I mean, reading is. I love when reading takes you away from. It transports you to another place.
Right.
You feel like you're in that. Whatever's going on, you're in it. There was a book written by Bob Greene, who was a really good writer for Chicago Tribune. He's written a number of books. You can Google him. It's Grenne. He's a great writer. He ran into some little bumpy scandal, but he's a great writer. Mm-hmm. He's written a number of books. And he wrote a book about a group you never heard of, but the Alice Cooper group. And I interviewed Alice one time for BCSN. Interesting gentleman, unbelievably interesting gentleman. But his pitch was, this is when they were the number one group in the country in 72. I mean, they were it.
Right.
Number one records, selling millions of records, traveling all the country. And he wanted to join the group and then be with them every night. And they put on a lavish stage production. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to be part of it. And then he'd write about it. The book's called $1 Billion Babies.
Oh, cool.
And he dressed up as Santa Claus every night. It was a Christmas tour. And Alice would beat Santa Claus up at the end of the show, I mean, in a fake way.
Of course.
Tongue in cheek and all that. But he wrote a book about $1 Billion Babies. But he took you away. You felt like you were on the tour, every day going to a new city, meeting new people. So when reading does that to me, it's like fantastic. I love
that. And what music are you listening to right now?
Good question. You're not going to know any of my people, but I'm a 60s, 70s guy. I think that was a time period that I'm certainly prejudicial toward because I was in that time period. But I like the Beatles, the Beach Boys. I saw Three Dog Night the other night. You probably never heard of Three Dog Night. If you Google them, Riles, they had 21 top 40 hits in a 7-year span.
Wow.
Sold 100 million records. I mean, they were it.
Yeah.
And if you heard the songs, you'd know them. Joy to the World, One, Shambhala, Black and White. The world is white, the world is
You're
black.
You're correct. I do know all the songs.
Okay. So we went to the Stranahan to see them on last Saturday.
Yeah.
Lead singer, the only guy left, they broke up. The only guy left of the group, one passed and one is doing his own thing. Danny Hutton's the lead singer. And he's 81.
Wow.
His second voice over on the microphone, who looked like he was 112. He was 77, but he looked 112. Yeah. So we're sitting there going, thinking, oh boy, how's this going to go?
Right.
Riles, I will tell you, they were fantastic.
Oh, awesome.
They were fantastic. They did every one of their hits. They got standing ovation. The place was packed.
Oh, cool.
But the guy was 81, 77. That kind of tells you age is a number.
Oh, yeah.
If you mentally feel like, and you can still get out there and do it.
Absolutely.
So Beatles, Beach Boys, Three Dog Night, Alice Cooper, a little bit of country. I always liked Toby Keith. I like Toby Keith a lot.
Yeah.
There's one line I always loved in his song of, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. You should look that video up. Okay. Toby Keith, I'm not as good as I once was.
I will look that up sure.
You will scream at the video. It's pretty good.
So tell me about your favorite movies or TV shows.
Okay, well, I just watched for the third time, completely all the way through Friday Night Lights.
I was going to guess that was your answer.
Oh my God. Kyle Chandler. plays the coach, and he's in the Bloodline too. And he's remarkable. But the football movie is so spot on. If you've ever coached, I love that show. I watch Seinfeld reruns. I love Seinfeld. I think George Costanza is a genius. He's a genius. I love when Seinfeld came up with the thing about George. Everything that George does is wrong.
Right.
So then Jerry says, well, George, so wait a minute. If everything you do is wrong, every decision you make is wrong, do the opposite of what you think.
Right.
Costanza, that's genius. I'll just do the opposite of what,
I love that.
Yeah, I love Seinfeld. Movies, I'm a big movie guy. I love movies. With COVID, I don't think they're putting movies out as like they used to.
Right.
Kevin Costner's coming out with one I think is going to be good Saturday, Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that.
Yeah, big Kevin Costner household for me.
I like Kevin Costner. I was a big Bull Durham fan, huge. Yellowstone, huge. I like Costner. And one before you would like, doesn't get a lot of press, No Way Out.
Okay.
No Way Out with Kevin Costner. He plays a kind of a spy, a double knot spy.
Ooh, okay.
But it's pretty good. No Way Out. You would like it if you like Costner.
I feel like he has to be the king of Western.
I love the Western genre.
Our favorite in my house is Dances with Wolves.
I like Dances with Wolves.
And then we also loved, it was a newer one, I think maybe came out during COVID, called Let Him Go.
I didn't see that.
That one I will recommend.
All right, I'll check it out.
Because he has to save his grandchild from these like really shady characters, and they all live on these like farm plot lands, like so interesting. You should definitely
I'll check that one out. And Selleck, I like Selleck in Western.
Oh, yeah.
Selleck's great. I like his stuff. But I love movies. We go to see tons of movies. I love movies. My all-time favorite movie, which you probably have never seen, is The Natural with Robert Redford. Have you ever seen The Natural?
I don't think so.
Find The Natural.
Okay.
It might be the most well-produced, well-written, best Robert Redford part ever done. And as a matter of fact, there's history, which your dad would like, and your mom would like it too. They came to Toledo. They were gonna shoot it in Toledo at the old Rec Center Stadium.
Oh, okay.
It's an old baseball movie put in the 1930s. They came to Toledo for some reason. It, like all kind of movie stuff, didn't work out. I think they ended up shooting it at an old Milwaukee stadium someplace. But the Rec Center had the look they were looking for.
Yeah.
But you need to watch The Natural.
Okay.
You will not be disappointed.
I will put it on my list, I promise.
You must. I'm gonna call you on this one, Riles. You must watch The Natural.
I will.
All right.
And speaking of movies and books, do you have a fictional character that you identify with?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Well, it's gonna sound. Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. You know what? I'm so glad you asked that question. There was a series of books which I first experienced them in high school. They were in our library. They were called the Chip Hilton, Hilton stories.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
Okay. A fellow named Claire Bee, B-E-E, he was known as maybe the greatest basketball coach that ever lived.
Okay.
Bobby Knights and John Woodens and everybody would call him for advice. That's how great he was. And he coached high school and he coached college and he also coached some football. So what he did is he sat down, and that really gave me the idea for my books, this genre of books. And here's a series of 25 of them, the Chip Hilton stories. And he sat down and he took a character, someone that he coached. It was a real person.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull up his picture. It's a real person. And Chip was, and his name wasn't Chip, but Chip was great in school, best player on the basketball team. He was the quarterback on the football team. He's unbelievable. He's a pitcher on the baseball team. He was incredible. He was everything.
Yeah.
But he was a down-to-earth, solid guy. Great friends. But Chip didn't have it easy. He was raised by a mom, single mom. Money was tough. He had to work jobs.
Yeah.
And he would face regular problems that kids in high school would face with friends and problems you face, a jealousy on the team and But Chip handled everything so well. It was great. It's a great lesson for young kids that are good for anybody.
Yeah.
That you're going to handle problems. And there's a series of 27 of these books. I just gave the first couple to my grandson because I wanted him to read it. So the Chip Hilton stories, are incredible. I mean, they're thematically,
Yeah,
their lessons, and Chip handles everything. Even though it doesn't come easy for him,
for sure.
he does the right thing, handles it the right way. So the Chip Hilton series, I couldn't do what Chip did because he was great at everything, but he was certainly somebody that you would emulate.
For sure. I love that. And what are some hobbies that you have outside of work? I know that songwriting.
Yeah, I'm working on a song now. My writing, I think when it's all said and done and I eventually retire, which will be someday. I'm not soon unless I get run over by a truck in the parking lot on the way out.
Jeez.
And Riley could say, "Hey, we had that interview. He wasn't terrible.
He's not a terrible guy.
Yeah, he's not a terrible guy." I see in 3 or 4 years maybe, I just wind down to just writing.
Yeah.
And doing songs and writing.
I love that.
I think I've got some more books that I want to do, and I think I would concentrate on that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. And what are some of your favorite sports teams?
Well, I was always a New York Jets fan because of the quarterback you don't know, Joe Namath. You need to Google him. He was something special.
In my defense, the name sounds very familiar. I just am not a sports girl as much as I should be.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing you, Riles. You should Google him.
I will.
The Jets, when Namath was there, great Hall of Fame pro quarterback. The Browns, when a quarterback named Brian Sipe was there. Mm-hmm. Brian Sipe and the Cardiac Kids were so amazing in Cleveland. They'd win every game in the last 30 seconds. I mean, they literally did it week after week after week after week. They were incredible. College-wise, I broadcast college games. I guess I never want to be a fan. I guess because I coached, I never saw the fan thing because I always see the kind of the negative side of the fan thing. Like some fans go to, I'm not picking on Ohio State. They're great. But they go to the Ohio State game and they want them to beat them 180-0.
Right.
I was always for the fairness of, okay, you're up by 5 touchdowns. Let's clear the bench, put the other kids in. You know what I mean? I think fans don't care about that a lot of times. They just, let's kill them. How much can we score,
No, I agree with you for sure. And what are the qualities that you value in those you work with and those you associate yourself with?
Wow. I think I'm big on fairness. Mm-hmm. I think if somebody's fair, they're always fair with you. You go the extra mile for them. Fair and honest, integrity-based. You can't lose, right? Can you
Absolutely.
Lose? You may disagree on something.
Right.
Say we had a disagreement on policy, and you said, "Hey, Tom, you're an idiot," and I say, "Okay, okay, all right, Rouse, I'll admit to that one," and we'll argue the next point. But if somebody's fair and integrity-based and honest, you're not going to have any issues.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking. We appreciate your time.
Riles, you're a real talent. I've told you this so many times, and so appreciate your skills, talents, and writing, and keep doing good things in our community.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for listening. Make sure to check out Mature Living magazine in print and online, as well as all of the publications under Adams Street Publishing, including the Toledo City Paper, Toledo Area Parent, Ann Arbor Family, Current, and Findlay Living. Find us on social media or connect with us if you have any story ideas to share.